Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag's injury problems pile up. How is this going to impact what could be a fantastic season for United? I suppose we can all say we expected this, but we were hoping it wouldn't happen with Antony now added to the injury list. Also, very interesting article tonight coming in from James Ducker in The Telegraph talking about how Erik ten Hag is pondering the two options of Harry Kane or OSIMHEN, the short term or the long term. We'll get into that as well. And yes, I have been in Manchester today, and I tell you what, I'm wearing a Boohoo Man sort of jacket around the house because that drive back from Manchester was cold. And I don't mean cold listening to classic Oasis while chewing on a Mars bar cold. I mean actually freezing my tits off cold. So I've gone with the Boohoo Man top today for the jacket. But look, it's useful because we're sponsored by Boohoo Man. And before we get into any of that, remember you can scan the QR code next to me or go through the link in the description and you can get your discount through the United Stands. But as always with Boohoo Man, they have got a little bit of United related trivia for us. So this week we're seeing if you guys can guess which United player Boohoo Man are talking about from the below clues. So here we go. I joined Manchester United for 7 million in 03-04. I made 93 appearances for Manchester United, scoring 12 goals. I scored my first goal against Norwich City, scoring the winner with a stunning volley in the 49th minute. It emerged that Manchester United manager Sir Alex Ferguson was tipping me as the successor to Roy Keane in the Manchester United midfield. I once broke my leg and dislocated my ankle in a match against Liverpool. I don't know who this is. Who am I? Ah, yeah. I'm thinking 93-94. Yeah, I know who it is now. I know who it is. If you do know who it is, get in the chats. Goldbridge got caught out there, I've got to admit. It's Alan Smith, of course. Luke Slabhead, you're the first, but I don't know why I didn't know that one. I'm a bit disappointed. I normally do know them. Why didn't I get that? Yeah, it's because they didn't mention Leeds. Yeah. Good one. Well done to Boohoo Man. That was a good one. As always, Boohoo Man have given United Stand a discount for this video by scanning the QR code or going through the link in the description. Or using the code Goldbridge, you can get an extra 10% off at Boohoo Man, excluding certain sale items. You can get lovely stuff like this is what I'm wearing today. I love this. I love the combo colours. And it's very nice, actually, when you've had a cold drive back from the north. Thanks very much to Boohoo Man for supporting the show. It's been a busy one on the channel today, hasn't it? I really enjoyed... here's one for you. When you watched that studio show with Adam and Ricky earlier, I actually was sat watching that behind the camera. I kept thinking about running on and ruining it, but I thought, no, that's just immature and unprofessional. So I was actually sat... If you watched that later or you watched it earlier, I'm sat behind the camera watching that, but there you go. Anyway, let's get on with the show. It's bad news, isn't it? It's bad news from the press conference this lunchtime. Erik ten Hag confirming that Martial will miss the game against Leeds, as will Scott McTominay, as will Antony. Antony is injured now, and... We've spoken about the importance of the January transfer window if we really want to challenge for major trophies. The January transfer window is shut. I'm not here to start talking about what we should have done. I think we all know what should have happened. We didn't do it, and now we can't say anything other than I told you so. I mean, this was always going to happen. Many of us feared this would happen. We don't have the squad to play the games that we're having to play 3 times a week. And now Antony is out. What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? So McTominay isn't back. I think a lot of people thought he would be back. He's not back. We've lost Donny. We've lost Eriksen. Martial is injured again. McTominay is still injured. Antony's injured. And now Martial's obviously injured. So we're picking up injuries, aren't we? And it is going to become a bit of a problem. I just don't want to see Man United dropping points because we're losing players. Antony, I was surprised. And I suppose I shouldn't be surprised because these things can happen and they do happen. But... you know, are we in a situation with Antony where he's starting to pick up quite a lot of injuries now? Because I'm pretty sure he was injured before the World Cup for about 2 weeks. I'm sure he had an injury a couple of weeks ago that kept him out of one game, and then I think it was the midweek game against Palace, wasn't it? I think, and then he's out again, missing another game. So I mean, look, I'm not for 1 minute saying that a lad in his early 20s is injury prone, but it's not a habit you want to see a new signing getting into who's struggling with consistency, who is not actually that reliable to be available for the first team. And I think, as Erik ten Hag said in this press conference, they need to sort this out because we can't just keep having players dropping, unreliable. And yeah, I don't know what the issue is with Anthony. Obviously, we never get that. I mean, I love Ten Hag. I think we all do. But I do find it a little bit frustrating that we never get any updates on injuries. I don't actually see why we can't. Delo's been injured twice now. We've never been given how long he'll be out for. And I think in the modern game, you don't get any by not telling people how long they're out for. You're not giving the opposition an advantage. A lot of these players are mates. They'll be WhatsApping each other saying, "I'm not available for a couple of weeks." So it's not like Leeds couldn't find out. Eric Ten Hag can see the future. Wailanga here now, says Leo J. And also, could Anthony just be dropped for what happened in the last game? Says Ian. No. It wasn't injury, it was a car wreck back in January, says Kevin. You're right, Kevin. Thank you very much for clarifying that. And also, what do you think about Onana from Everton as a backup for Casemiro, says Nathan. I think people are going over the top with Onana. I like him, but I think people are going over the top about him. I think it's a little bit quick to start talking about Onana as a Manchester United player. I think he has the potential, but yeah, I'm not like going to start saying he's the midfielder I want yet. I blame Schlupp for Anthony's injury. Maybe he might be on something there. And bad news about the injuries, but will it just be a byproduct of the way the team plays under Ten Hag? Hence the need for more depth, says Stephen. Well, the need for more depth is there. There is a need. There is a more need for depth, definitely. And I think that look, in this situation, it's just a concern, isn't it? I know, like any of the United fan, I want us to win tomorrow. I want us to beat Leeds home and away, and I want us to beat Leicester, and I want us to take 9 points from our next 3 games. What I don't want to happen, and it will really frustrate me, is if we start dropping points because of squad depth. That will really frustrate me because there was never any need for this to happen. And I just don't think you can ever know what's going to happen in the future. I think what Arsenal did is, Arsenal spent money in January because they're like, we might never get a good chance to win the title again like this. Next season, Chelsea and Liverpool could be back as dominant forces. Man City, may still be in the league. And you've got to grab the opportunity when it's in front of you, because if you snooze, you lose. And I think United didn't really grab the opportunity, knowing full well that we were going to pick up a lot of injuries. I mean, I think we'd all love to be a fly on the wall in the Man United decision room, but I can't believe that nobody in that decision room was saying, you do know we will pick up a lot of injuries and that could really derail our season. And what was it? Wow, what can we do? Mark, if we don't beat Chris, the headphones man, RMS, all our players should consider retirement, says Daniel Kirk. And don't worry, it's Jadon Sancho's time, says Eric Ten Hag. Well, look, obviously the reason I wanted to talk about the Anthony absence for a minute or two was because obviously with Anthony, I did the preview last night and I didn't have him in the team anyway. I had Jadon Sancho in the team, so I don't really feel that I need to address my preview team from last night because I had Sancho in anyway. I personally think this is the perfect game to play Jadon Sancho because it's a home game and the next 2 games are Leeds away and Barcelona away, so you're not probably going to play Sancho in that. But if you want Sancho to have a role in that, you've got to start giving... I mean, Sancho's only played 20 minutes, hasn't he? He came on against Forest in the Carabao Cup, played well at 10, didn't get on against Palace at the weekend. So Sancho, I think, needs time against Leeds. Whether he'll start him or not, I don't know. You could... But Sancho's the most natural right-sided player we've got, unless he wants to put Bruno out there. But we can't really put Bruno out there because we haven't got Casemiro or Eriksen in the midfield. So I think that Sancho off the right is the most logical thing tomorrow night, I really do. Bang, that's how average Onana is, says CB. And hello from Croatia, go United, says Apetco. So look, it's a concern. It's a concern. But I think that at the end of the day, it's not a surprise. And we just have to go with what we've got, don't we? But it is, I mean, what can you say? Manchester United start picking up injuries. We're averaging about 2 injuries. In fact, since mid-January, I think we're averaging an injury a week at the moment, when you think about it. Delo got injured again in January. Eriksen got injured in January. Donny got injured in January. Martial got injured in January. Anthony's got... Yeah, we seem to be sort of... They are quite frequent. That's my problem. They are quite frequent. And we could do with just going a few weeks without any injuries, because at the moment they are coming in thick and fast. And I don't want to be the prophet of doom, but we discussed this at the start of the season, with a season that starts at the start of August and ends at the end of May and involves playing 3 games a week for that long. You will start to get players dropping like flies in February, March and April because their bodies just won't be able to deal with that schedule. and obviously some of our players aren't at the moment. But we can't afford to keep losing a player a week, because we will be absolutely screwed by the time April comes around. So we could do with a little bit of luck. We could, we're now using that word luck, aren't we? And I don't think Ten Hag is about luck. I think Ten Hag's about going into every game with a plan, an obsessive plan to win the game. But already we're at the start of February and we're already starting to talk about luck. We need a bit of luck around injuries for a few weeks, because we can't afford to lose any more players, really. I think with Martial out, Anthony out, McTominay out, Eriksen out, Donny out, the only place that we've got strength at the moment is centre-back. Well, you say you've got strength at centre-back. If you lose Varane or Martinez, you've got to play Maguire or Lindelof. It's not really strength, is it? We just can't afford to start losing any more players. Daniel Kirk says, what's your thoughts on Ricky saying he wouldn't start Marcus Rashford in the final? I saw Ricky today. Nice to see him. Look, Ricky's consistent. Sometimes Ricky's right, sometimes Ricky's wrong. He's never been a big fan of Marcus Rashford. I've had this conversation with him before. He's never been a fan of Marcus Rashford, so it doesn't surprise me that he would drop Rashford. It's consistent. Of course, I can't understand that. But it's like Wan-Bissaka. Ricky said Wan-Bissaka wasn't very good, and there's that clip of him outside the ground saying that, and it worked for about 2 years. But now Wan-Bissaka's brilliant again. So, the thing about football opinions is you can be right and then you can be wrong. People were right saying that Luke Shaw was crap, weren't they? And then they're wrong again. So I just think you've got to be consistent. So I haven't really got a problem with Ricky being consistent about Rashford. He's never really been a big fan of his, and just because he's playing well, he obviously still isn't a fan of his, is he? I'm telling you now, Mark, 2 + 2 is Matic, says Yuvia. Interesting story coming in tonight, though, from James Ducker in The Telegraph. I don't know whether you'd seen it. Basically saying that Erik ten Hag is pondering which option to go for in the summer as the striker. Harry Kane, which is more short-term, or OSIMHEN, or joining the race for OSIMHEN, which is probably going to be more expensive and more competitive, but is more of a long-term choice. You can vote on your poll if you want to. And James Ducker did mention the 2012 scenario where Sir Alex basically had to choose between Van Persie and Lewandowski. And Lewandowski at that time, in 2012, would have been a long-term option, whereas Van Persie obviously was the short-term option, and the short-term option worked. So, look, I think it's amazing, isn't it? We were actually talking about this on the show this morning. So, yes, I remember what we did with Van Persie. I think a lot of people do remember what we did with Van Persie. But as I said this morning, we lost the title on goal difference. So Sir Alex Ferguson went and bought a striker, and the next year we won it. We weren't one player off winning the title. We were a few goals off winning the title. It wasn't even a player. We had a title-winning team. We just didn't score enough goals. So we went and bought the Golden Boot winner. I mean, it wasn't rocket science. It wasn't easy to get Van Persie from Arsenal, but basically we lost the title to Aguero on goal difference. So he went and bought the Golden Boot winner, and the next year we won the league. It's the most 2 + 2 is Matic scenario, isn't it? Mark, if we don't get OSIMHEN, who's your preferred choice? Well, we're just about to talk about Connor. And Kane is Premier League proven. Most importantly, he's a professional who's a great model to youth players coming through. No more big egos, says Kieran. I couldn't give a shit about that, to be honest, Kieran. And I know injuries, but Van der Beek and Eriksen season-ending challenges not from fatigue, says Ray. Yeah, but there's still injuries, Ray. There's still injuries, aren't they? But if Jude goes to Real, we should go for Valverde, says Ramo. So I don't personally see any connection or similarity between signing Van Persie in 2012 at around 30 years of age to buying Harry Kane now, because as I said, we weren't even one team or one player away from winning the team when we bought Van Persie. We just needed goals, and he gave us goals. I don't think this team, even though there's an outside chance we could win the title this year, I don't think that team is really a title-winning team. And I hope they prove me wrong on that, but I don't think we're a striker away from winning the title either. I think we're another centre-back, I think we're another midfielder and a striker away from winning the title. So, I don't know. Look, if we get Harry Kane, it could be the best thing we do. I'm certainly not going to sit here and say it's a bad thing to do. I like the player. He is world-class. He is Premier League proven. And I think he would score goals at United. I just don't really want us to do that deal. I think I want something more long term, and Harry Kane will be 30 in June or July. So it'll be a 30-year-old signing for Manchester United for about 100 million quid. And I'm like, that's a big risk. Whereas OSIMHEN might cost you 120 million quid, but you're getting someone in his early 20s. There are other strikers out there. There is Vlahovic, who is also in his early 20s. There is Ramos at Benfica, who is in his early 20s. There's Sesko, who's in his early 20s. And I just think I want long-termism. You know, and I think that fits in with what we are. But it's interesting that James Ducker's talking about it, because obviously he's a very good journalist close to Manchester United. And I think that, as I've said before, when did I mention this? Was it September or October? I think we'll sign Harry Kane in the summer. I said I've got a hunch that we'll sign Harry Kane in the summer. So as much as I don't want us to, I do think we will. And I won't be throwing my toys out the pram if we do. Bloody hell. We bought Fellaini and I didn't want him. And I still give him a chance, 5 minutes, but I did. But if we bought Harry Kane, I think it'd be very exciting and I'd back it and I'd want it to do well. But it's just not my preference. It's not my preference. And I don't think there is, as I say, a comparison with Van Persie, because, you know, sometimes people want to rewrite history. And I remember why we bought Van Persie, and it's not the same. And that worked for 1 year as well. You know, Van Persie won us a title, but it was 1 year, and then that was the end of that. So, do we want Harry Kane for 1 year? No, and I don't think he'd be here for 1 year. I think he'd be here for 3 or 4. So it's not the same as Van Persie, is it? It could come down to money. You know what? I have to say, Sabitzer reminds me of Schweinsteiger, says Miles. Well, Schweinsteiger, it didn't go that well. I wish it had. Is there a reason why there's little local interest in the derby? Been trying to sell my tickets at face value for weeks. Can't fly in midweek, says Leon. What derby? We've played Man City twice. I don't know what he's talking about. So I think it will come down to money. That's what I wanted to say on the show tonight. I think it will come down to money, and I think we've got to be eyes open wide about that. Man United are still a club that's fixated on money. I think even when the Glazers go, we'll still be a club that's fixated on money, because I think we've messed up on the financial fair play. I think we messed up massively last year. I think we've overspent, and I think that this summer we're in trouble. I don't think it really matters who buys us and how much money they've got in their pocket. I think we're restricted next summer. It's already been spoken about. If we didn't get Champions League football and we don't sell some players, we won't have a lot of money to spend. So I don't think we'll have the money in the summer to go and spend £120 million on OSIMHEN. I think if we can get Kane for 80, we'll go for that. I do think no matter who the owner is, there will be an element of we've got to cut our cloth accordingly. So maybe Harry Kane will suit better than that. Although I saw his link to another striker today. I can't remember who it was. Completely gone blank. 78% of you would go for OSIMHEN over Harry Kane. And I don't think that's because Harry Kane's a bad striker in any way, shape or form. If anyone's like me, then it's not because you think Harry Kane's a bad player. I don't. I think he's world class. I've said that before. It's just about what vision you want for Manchester United in the future. Some people want an English striker playing up front for Manchester United. I get that. I want a younger striker playing for Man United that can come to Man United, develop and become one of the best strikers in the world. I'm off to the game tomorrow. Really looking forward to it, says LM. Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting game tomorrow. I really do. And, we need to win it. Prime FN says Arsenal are in the same situation as United with squad depth as well. I think if City get points deducted, it then turns into who has less injuries wins the title, says Prime. Yeah, Man City ain't getting any points deducted this season. If anyone's thinking that, you're way ahead of yourself. I think this Man City thing is going to go on for a few, 18 months or so. So there won't be any points deduction this season. Thoughts on Valverde being linked to us, says Samuel. Well, I've spoken to you before. I know we've just I'll speak about a story like Kane or OSIMHEN being considered because it's coming from James Ducker, who is somebody who's there writing about Man United for years. But also will say that the chat about summer transfer windows for me is irrelevant. It really is irrelevant. I don't know. I don't know if we're linked to Valverde. I don't know whether we're linked to Anana. I don't really care because we're in the midst of this amazing season at the moment, and I think there's just so many permutations and options and angles that really it's not worth talking about. However, I think that we know we're going to buy a striker. we are going to have to buy a striker for a million reasons, and I think it will come down to what the budget's going to be in the summer. I mean, if you spend £100 million on OSIMHEN or Kane, you're not going to have a hell of a lot of money left to buy anything else, are you? And, you know, I think there's a real acceptance that not only do we need a world-class striker in the summer, we also need another world-class midfielder. And look, maybe we'd just buy Kane and Sabitzer and that would be our summer. But we also need a centre-back as well. There's a lot of deals for Manchester United to do in this summer. It's not about what do I think about Valverde, what do I think about Onana, what do I think about Harry Kane. I don't think about those things when I'm thinking about what Manchester United need in the summer. I think about what we have to get in the summer, and we 100% have to get a centre-back, a midfielder and a striker. They are absolutely essential. 3 signings, therefore. Some people think we need a right-back. Obviously, we still need to resolve the goalkeeping situation. There has to be somebody better than Tom Heaton as the understudy. With all due respect to Heaton, I think he does a good job, but if David De Gea broke his leg, would you want Tom Heaton as the number 1 goalkeeper for Manchester United? And I like Tom Heaton, but he's not a top 4 goalkeeper, is he, that can step into the gap? So, you know, maybe we need a goalkeeper. Certainly the right back's been discussed. So I think we need 4 or 5 players in the summer. If you go and spend every £100 million on a striker, you're not going to get... I think it's always worth to consider that as much as I like OSIMHEN, if somebody said to me, do you want OSIMHEN and Sabitzer, or do you want a midfielder, a striker and an attack and a centre-back? We need the centre-back. We do need the centre-back in the summer as well. Billy says, I'm looking forward to the Barcelona games. Since the Champions League, they haven't lost a game and completely dominated Real Madrid. Hopefully Ten Hag can find a way to beat them in this form. Billy, I was talking to Adam today because he's going to be at the new camp, and you know, we're talking about the game, and I think it's just there's certain games in a season where they supersede any other game you've had all season, and I think the Barcelona games, for a multitude of reasons, will just be so exciting. It's the wrong tournament. We should be playing them in the Champions League knockout stage, not the Europa League, but it will still be very exciting. Is it true that the match tomorrow won't be shown in the UK, says Toro? Well, apparently, I was talking to Charlie about this. Apparently, it's not on in the UK tomorrow because the original fixture wasn't going to be on the telly back in September. So, I mean, I can't for the life of me understand why that's not on the telly. There's no games on the telly tomorrow night on Sky or BT. Why they can't change the rules and just put it on, I don't know. But we'll have to watch along as usual. I wouldn't be opposed to signing Kane for the right price, but arguably would sign another young striker like a Sesko. Cheers, Mark, says Alonso. OSIMHEN is a bigger risk in my opinion, says Rory. Kane is guaranteed and cheaper. OSIMHEN is quality, but might not work, and his price tag will be crazy, says Rory. I'm trying to think of a polite comeback to that, Rory. I was going to say, tell me you don't know football by telling me you don't know football, but that would be really rude. I think I disagree with you, Rory, quite big there, because I don't think Harry Kane would be a lot cheaper than OSIMHEN. I don't know why people think Harry Kane would be cheaper. His goals record for Spurs over the last 3 or 4 years has been unbelievable. And just because he's got a year left on his contract doesn't mean Spurs will sell him to a rival on the cheap. I think Harry Kane will... The cheapest you'll get Harry Kane is about 90 million for a 30-year-old. I think OSIMHEN you'll get for about 120. So is it cheap to say 30 million more for a 22-year-old over a 30-year-old? As for ability, I don't know what people are talking about OSIMHEN might be more of a risk. I really don't buy into Premier League proven in that sense. I think there is a, you know, would you say that Harry Kane is a better striker than Erling Haaland last year? I think it was obvious that Erling Haaland would come and score goals even though he'd only played in the Bundesliga. OSIMHEN scored goals in the Champions League and he's doing it at the top of the Serie A. I think OSIMHEN is actually more suited to the Premier League than he is Serie A. Serie A is not an easy place to go and score goals. It never has been. It's tactical, bit slower. So I think OSIMHEN's going to go to a big club in the summer. It's not a risk. It's about who for me, Rory, I think the thing about OSIMHEN is it's not a risk. It's about who's going to get him. Because if we don't get him, he'll end up at Real Madrid or Chelsea or somewhere like that. Would you take Ollie as director of football? No. And why did what Ajit says? Oh, Ajit, what? Why? I've had I've been driving today for 6 hours. I got stuck in traffic on the way up to Manchester. I got stuck on the traffic on the way back. I don't need a prat in the chat saying we should have Ollie as director of football. His signings were good. Dan James was a flop. Maguire was a flop. Wan-Bissaka was overpriced. Who else did he buy? Sancho. Well, he did. It's Ten Hag who's having to rescue Sancho's career. Varane didn't actually do that well for Ollie. It's been brilliant for Ten Hag. So the Robin van Persie situation was different because he wasn't expecting to have Moyes as his manager in season 2. Hopefully Ten Hag is here to stay, says Glennie. No, it wasn't different, Glennie. Van Persie was very injury prone and he got injured a lot in his second season. We should buy young talents at United next season for the 4 or 5 positions and Ten Hag can develop them. Don't know if United have a good scouting team, says Ake. And Jules, thanks for the super chat. With these many players out, I start to think if it was a good idea to sell Garner. In moments like this one, he would be very helpful. Thoughts, says Flavio. I think that's a bit of a... I think the Garner thing is probably not important to a lot of United fans, but I think it's an interesting one to the deep diving United fans who obsess about United and every little detail. And for me, I do, and I agree. I would love to know. We'll never know. It's a bit like saying I'd love to have seen Rangnick as the director of football and Murta sacked, and then Rangnick working as the director of football ahead of Ten Hag. I think it would have been a dream team. But we'll never know. I'd also like to know what Ten Hag's honest opinion on Garner being sold was, but we'll never know. I suspect, well, I know that United needed to sell somebody in the end of the window. They had to sell somebody, and some of the players they thought they could sell, they couldn't sell. I think that really there was a chat with Ten Hag to say, look, we've got an offer on the table for Garner. We need to sell somebody. We want to sell Garner. What do you think about it? And Eric probably said, well, he's not part of my first team plans, so I'd like to have a good long look at him and maybe send him out on loan. And they just decided to sell him. I don't know, that's just a theory, but I very much doubt, because Garner was injured for the start of the tour. He hardly played on the tour. I very much doubt Ten Hag looked at Garner and went, sell him. Look at Wan-Bissaka. Like, Wan-Bissaka was a player he was trying to sell, and he ended up not selling him, and now he's an important player. I can't imagine Ten Hag looking at a 21-year-old or a 20-year-old who had just come off a really good season and been promoted and saying, yeah, he's no good, sell him. We'll never know, but I always thought it was a bit weird. Lee says, when they speak about OSIMHEN, do they mean 120 million euros, says Lee. I don't know. I think he will be costing north of 100 million, to be fair. I think we could do a better deal with Inter or Juve and get Latoro or Vlahovic, maybe able to sign some deadweight the other way, says Leo J. Zane says, Mark, I'm celebrating as the league is basically Arsenal's, as City will get points deducted. Hope you buy Kane so you can compete with us, says Zane. And future strikers we could look at Makuku, Balogun, Adeyemi, top strikers, OSIMHEN, Kane, and maybe we could get a Sesko from right back or Malen from Dortmund, says DJ. And hello from Saudi Arabia. Are you watching the World Cup? My team Al Hilal is playing, and with this score they are going to the final, maybe facing Madrid, says Sullivan. Oh, is this the World Cup? The World Cup Club Championships. I mean, look, I struggled to watch it when United used to be in it. I really will not watch it when it's not United in it. So good luck with it, but no. Eric Ten Hag says, I mean, this is not breaking news, Eric. It's slow sports news. I mean, he's put one of those red sirens on it like he's important. Poor old Eric. But it's slow sports news because we spoke about it last night. But it is a true update, but it's 24 hours old. Tottenham will not sell Harry Kane to rivals this summer. Man United, who have been linked with Kane, have made Napoli Victor Osimhen's a target, and that's from Gary Jacob, who I think is the chief writer for the Times. It's 24 years old. It's 24 years old. It's 24 hours old. That, but look, I said it last night, and I'll say it again. I think it's an important thing to consider because I don't think that we would get Harry Kane. I heard someone today, or I read it on social media, and they were going, I'll get Harry Kane because he'll be cheaper than Osimhen and he's Premier League proven. I'll be easier to get hold of. Oh, yeah, it'll be dead easy. We'll ring up Daniel Levy in June and we'll say, Daniel, there's 70 million quid for Harry Kane. Now take it. And he'll go, oh, thank you. Thank you, Manchester United. We didn't know what to do. You've rescued us. God bless you. God bless you, Man United, for saving Tottenham and taking Harry Kane off our hands. We didn't think we'd get a fiver for him. You bloody beauties. God bless you, my lads. God bless you. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's a dream. That's a Christmas carol. That's not going to happen. We're going to ring Spurs up. They're going to say we're not selling him to you. And then Harry Kane will go, I want to go. And they'll say, we're not selling you to a rival, but I want to go. And Harry Kane will go, I want to go. And Man United will go, he wants to go. And Spurs will go, you can have him for 100 million quid. And Harry Kane will go, cool, blimey, that's not fair. And United will go, oh, don't worry, Harry. We've done this before. We did it with another Harry. It worked out well, and we'll give him 100 million quid. They won't be taken for a ride, Spurs, and they won't do us a cheap deal. It's the same with Declan Rice. You know, no one's going to get him for cheap, as I spoke about this morning. Here's an update from Khalid. He says Anthony has a slight muscular issue in the back of his thigh, but it is not thought to be serious, and there's a good chance he'll be available for Sunday. That's great news. Thank you very much for that. Apparently that's on the United Stand Twitter page. This channel should be the official United channel, says SNTK. We have a good laugh on here, don't we? We have a good laugh. I enjoy it. That's what it's all about. I'll tell you what, though. I really do enjoy is this season has been the most enjoyable Man United season probably since I've been doing the United Stand. I think the Mourinho year that we won the Europa League and the Carabao Cup was a good one as well. But this one's right up there. And these prats who say, oh, it's the negative stand. It's like, what's that? It's not. It's just United have been shit for most of the time we've been doing this channel. But this, without question, is my happiest time doing this channel. I'm loving it. I'm loving what we're doing. And the only stress and anxiety I feel is these bloody injuries. Because I'm like, if we could just keep everybody fit, I think we've got a great chance. I'm still sort of low key thinking, if we beat Leeds twice and Leicester, where the bloody hell will we be in the league? That's 9 points. And Man City have got to play Arsenal. You know, we could be bloody really close. Ollie got rid of Ander Herrera, which I still hate, says David Pearge. And Weghorst is better than Kane. I'll tell you what, Liam, it's very interesting about Weghorst. I did say, will he end up being like Cavani or will he end up being like Ighalo? Who there was excitement around all of them. There's always a willingness in this fan base to give everybody a chance, which I love. But I think Weghorst started off quite well, and everyone was, oh, I think we've got something here. And then the last 2 games, I've seen people going, oh, he's bang average. And I feel sorry for him because I think he is a guy that is living the dream. You know, he's not really a top 4 player, is he? He's not a top 4 player at all. He's living the dream. He's running around. He's working hard, but maybe there is a bit of a skill gap between the players on the pitch that he's playing with and his own. It's way too early to judge him. Martial's not even bloody fit, so we just got to hope that we can get the best out of him. I think personally, what will happen with Weghorst, he'll have some games where he looks really, really good, and he'll have some games where he looks not that good, because I think that's the sort of level of player he is. Someone who plays up front for Wolfsburg and Besiktas and Burnley, they're never going to, if they were consistently good, they'd be playing up front for Real Madrid or Man City, wouldn't they? So I think he's just exactly what I expected Weghorst to be. Every game he gives his all. Some games he looks really good and some games he looks poor. He's just a typical mid-table player, and I think that's what Weghorst is. So I think people need to cut him a bit of slack. The interesting thing for me for Weghorst will be whether he does enough to get a contract, because there might be an opportunity to give someone like that a contract, and he'd be the perfect sort of bench option, wouldn't he? But we're a long way off, and he's very important at the moment. I mean, if we didn't have him, what would he be doing up front? Nicholas, thank you very much for the super chat. Flavio says, I'd go for Okafor. He only have 1.5 year in his contract and would be a good replacement for Martial and wouldn't be expensive. Okafor plus Osimhen, I think, would be more than enough next year, says Flavio. I do like Okafor. Okafor is at Salzburg, I think. Hi, Mark. I stand corrected. I just looked up the season stats. It's funny how the memory tricks you. I thought Moyes just kept picking Rooney, says Glenny Boy. No, he did. He got really injured, and then he was all right for the World Cup in 2014, which was then, obviously, Moyes had one season, Van Persie was injured, he was back for the World Cup, he scored the scorpion header, and everyone thought Van Gaal will go with Van Persie and bin off Rooney, and he binned off Van Persie. The odometer banner at the Stratford end should be reinstated and another 13 years added, says Ginger Red. And Milan got outplayed by Inter, and they should buy Maguire and McTominay. Those players have a better chance getting game time in Serie A, says Ope. And Daniel Levy will make sure you overpay. He refused 100 million last year, says Mr. Al. Look, if Harry Kane's going to stay in the Premier League, he's not going to go for anything less than 90 million. I said it, and I believe it. But I do have a hunch he'll end up being a Man United player. I do. This show's flown by tonight. Man United are fully conscious of the impact Kane has had on Son game and vice versa at Spurs, and believe he could be a potent foil for Marcus Rashford, says the Telegraph, James Ducker. Yeah, I can't. I can't argue with that. I think Harry Kane has had a very positive impact on Son, but I'll say it again. A lot of the link-up play that Harry Kane does for Son is by dropping into the number 10 position. Spurs don't play with a number 10. I often wonder who is giving the information to James Ducker there, because it's a bit wrong. Like, the information's right, and I don't blame the journalist for writing it, but Spurs don't play with a number 10. Harry Kane drops ridiculously deep for Son to run into his space and in-play balls through. What's Bruno going to do? Tesco shopping? Oh, Harry Kane, where are you going, Bruno? I'm walking off down the tunnel. Where are you going? Well, there's no point in me. Harry Kane's in my place now. So, if you're looking at Harry Kane to come to Manchester United, I would warn you to watch him play for England and Spurs. He would make Bruno's role very difficult, because he literally loves to drop deep and play almost next to what would be Eriksen and Casemiro, so that the wide player can run through it. It's very effective for Spurs. Also, it's very counter-attacking as well. Spurs don't really attack. For this team, it is more important to get a forward who can play other positions across the front line, or get a specialist striker. Stephen, I think fluidity is more important, but some people are saying buy Son instead. I do like Son, but I don't think he's a player that Man United need. If you'd said it a year ago, I would have been all over that. But I think with Marcus Rashford, you don't need to buy Son, to be honest with you. Yeah, but look, maybe we will get Kane. I've always had a hunch we will. I think United will steer clear of OSIMHEN because of the competition as well. Even if we've got the richest people in the world who own Man United, you've still got the same people doing the recruitment. And I would never be fair to the Glazers, but they have spent £1 billion in the last 10 years. Whose fault is it that £1 billion wasn't spent well? I don't think people ever think about it like this. I'm not defending the Glazers at all. They are horrible owners, but if you think about the billion they've given to the club to spend on transfers over the last 10 years, did they go and negotiate the transfers? No, somebody did. And that's what worries me about the summer. Even if the new owners come in with money, you've still got the same people doing the negotiating. I don't think we can get OSIMHEN if Chelsea want him, because they're better at negotiating than us. So we'll probably end up with Kane because we can't get OSIMHEN. Kane drops into number 10 and Bruno goes into number 9. Erik Ten Hag can make weird combos work, says JD. Yeah, look, I mean, you can't definitively say that it wouldn't work, but you can definitively say that it would be a concern. But at the end of the day, we're playing Leeds tomorrow, and these are all problems for the summer, aren't they? OSIMHEN, De Jong, and Kim Min Jae, says XR1. I'd love that. If I could have, like, if we're saying centre back, midfielder, and striker, what you got in the chat? What you got? Anyone who has 5 billion is not leaving Richard Arnold and Murta in charge, says Brad Lewis. Well, they might have to. If I could bring 3 players in the summer, and it would be centre back, midfielder, and striker, the dream would be OSIMHEN, Bellingham, and centre back. Dream, realistic, yeah, probably Kim Min Jae. I think he fits with what we want. More realistic or a different 3. Timber, De Jong, and Vlahovic. So there's combinations there, isn't there? I mean, I'd be over the moon with OSIMHEN, Bellingham, and Kim Min-jae. I'd be very happy with Timber, De Jong, and Vlahovic. There's also you could get Ndika, Casido, and Sesko. I mean, there are options out there. There are options out there, and I really want Man United to get back, and I think Ten Hag is capable of this. I really want Man United to get back to something we've not really done for a very long time. Instead of going for the obvious names, we actually start scouting and bring in some players that Ten Hag knows about. You know, maybe from South America. I'd love to see that. OSIMHEN, Kim Min-jae, and Lema would be my preference. Says CJ. Yeah, well, Lema's 100% going to Bayern, so that won't happen, I'm afraid. Vardiel, yeah, be very expensive. Malin, Valverde, and Kim Min-jae, says DJ. Mar, I don't smoke, no. And OSIMHEN, Kim Min-jae, and Lema, yeah, I've done that from CJ. De Jong ain't leaving this summer, says Amel. Yeah, but it won't stop United being linked to him, mate, I think, as we all know. Kane and Rice are more likely, says Mr. Melonhead. OSIMHEN, De Jong, and Timber, says Harry. And OSIMHEN, De Jong, and Kim Min-jae, says Yash. Look, the options. I do like Tomori, Andrew. I really do like Tomori. I don't know why he doesn't get linked with the Premier League more. I'd love Tomori at Manchester United. I really would. I'm a big fan of his, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. It was meant to be a much shorter show than that, so you got a longer one than expected because I'm bloody knackered and I want to get a bit of recuperation after a very busy day. But thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Studio in the morning, back in my studio in the evening. Don't forget, we're sponsored by Boohoo Man. This jacket's proper warmed me up. I was cold at the start, and now I'm feeling lovely and cool, and looking cool as well. Scan the QR code or go through the link in the description. Get yourself some lovely Boohoo Man clothing, reasonably priced, and you can get an extra 10% off with the code GOLDBRIDGE. I'll be back in the morning for the 10 o'clock show. It's match day again tomorrow as well. Exciting games ahead for Manchester United now. Take care, everyone, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Thanks for watching.